This is Psalm 47, God Mounts His Throne. God mounts His throne to shouts of joy. Alleluia, alleluia. All peoples clap your hands, cry to God with shouts of joy. For the Lord Most High, we must fear, great King over all the earth. God mounts His throne to shouts of joy. Alleluia, alleluia. God goes up with shouts of joy. The Lord goes up with trumpet blast. Sing praise for God, sing praise for God, sing praise to our King. God mounts His throne to shouts of joy. Alleluia, alleluia. God is King of all the earth. Sing praise with all your skill. God is King over the nations. He reigns on His holy throne. God mounts His throne to shouts of joy. Alleluia, alleluia.
Our psalm this day is Psalm 47. Clap your hands, all you peoples. Shout to God with loud songs of joy. For the Lord, the Most High, is awesome, a great King over all the earth. He subdued peoples under us and nations under our feet. He chose our heritage for us, the pride of Jacob whom He loves. Selah. God has gone up with a shout, the Lord with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God, sing praises to our King. Sing praises, for God is King of all the earth. Sing praises with a psalm. God is King over the nations. God sits on His holy throne. The princes of the peoples gather as the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He is highly exalted. Today, the psalm has been chosen in the lectionary to align with the readings for Jesus' Ascension, or Ascension Sunday. You will hear language throughout the psalm that mirrors Jesus' ascension. However, this text isn't meant to be a prophecy or a foretelling of Jesus' ascension. Rather, this is actually a realization that the work and the life of Christ are both a continuation and a focal point of the salvation history of the people of Israel. Similar to our psalm from last week, this again is a praise psalm. This is used for worship of God. And this particular psalm is called an enthronement psalm. Throughout, you will hear language used almost as if it were for a coronation of a king, where a king was crowned. And some scholars believe that this psalm could have been used in a yearly way, as people came together to ritually exclaim their allegiance to God and to God alone. And so I'm going to read through this psalm piece by piece and do a little bit of reflecting with you as we think about what this psalm means for us today. So Psalm 47 verses 1 through 4. Clap your hands, all you peoples. Shout to God with songs of joy. For the Lord, the Most High, is awesome, a great King over all the earth. He subdued peoples under us and nations under our feet. He chose our heritage for us, the pride of Jacob, whom He loves. Selah. Okay, so for most of us Lutherans, we might think that clapping in worship and praise of God is a very foreign thing. We might politely clap after a special music, but we often do not clap in worship of God. But have you ever been so surprised or blown away by the goodness of God that you have literally clapped and shouted? I'm not sure, but I've often seen the energy around those playoff football games with the Vikings and a whole bunch of guys just totally shouting and clapping and screaming at the TV. So, what if we brought that same kind of energy to praising God? What would that look like? For the people of Israel, God's reign and power is important because their history has been filled with persecution and being on the losing side. So many times in the story of Israel's people, they have been the ones under the foot of the oppressor. So here they are praising God for delivering them, for raising them up, and for giving them a long time heritage and a loving connection to God. And this has nothing to do with anything Israel has done to earn it. The emphasis here is only on what God has done for God's people. And so the psalm continues. God has gone up with a shout, the Lord with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God, sing praises to our King, sing praises. For God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with a psalm. Sing praises has been repeated 5 times in verses 6 and 7. And you might know this, but the use of repetition in Scripture is a key indicator that this is an important thing to notice and that the writer is asking us to pay attention. So far in this section of the psalm, the psalmist has established who God is. God is the creator, the preserver of all life, and that God alone is the one who gives the laws, the one in authority. And these are the things that are central to Israel's belief system. Most Israelites reading or singing this psalm would know these things to be true. But a question comes into my mind as I'm thinking about this. I wonder to myself and to you, what is central to your belief system? How does Scripture inform your belief system? If you have had to write like a praise psalm to God, like the psalmist, what would you include as central to who you believe God is and how you believe God acts in the world? And what would you repeat over and over again so that people just knew that this is how you feel? I think this could be a really fun spiritual practice to try, is to write out your own psalm of praise to God and what you would include of who God is and how God is in the world. Okay, let's continue. Verses 8 and 9. God is king over the nations. God sits on his holy throne. The princes of the peoples gather as the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He is highly exalted. Okay, so because God is the king, these are the reasons we are to trust God, to offer God our praise and our worship and obey God's laws. And laws in this context, laws are there so people can flourish, so that people can better love their neighbors. These laws are not only for protection and to shield people and protect people, but also as a way to give people a better life. The psalmist is praising God because all within the scope of creation is under God's power and authority. That is what makes God the most supreme king. Now, I know that we don't often welcome kingly language. We don't want a king. We don't want someone ruling over our life. In fact, we would rather be the king of our own life. And, historically, we live in a country formed and based on leaving kingly powers for democracy. And so I wonder, too, how do you hear this kingly language? Does thinking about God as a king comfort you, or does it challenge you? And can you really believe that God is king over all the earth? And do we really believe that God still holds power? Because, like, in the movies, we can see images of this cartoon God that's an old white man with a beard sitting on a gold throne up in the silver lined clouds of heaven, just like a king. And yet, this psalmist is speaking lovingly about a kingly God and not making fun. And how? How do we imagine God as king over all when we still live in a world that is consumed with fear and with destruction, with war, threats, global warming, pandemics, like the list goes on and on? How do we still trust a kingly God in the midst of a world like that? I read once a quote that said this: "The God who creates is the one who creates possibilities, even when none are evident." I think this is where the psalmist is going, with praise and adoration for a God who is always powerful, who is always creating possibilities, who is always working to bring new life from death and destruction. The psalmist knows how God has transformed the lives of the people of Israel. And the psalmist wants us to know that God can too still be that God for all people. And that we will trust that. And that we will sing praises and we will share this good news with all whom we meet. Because God in Jesus Christ is the ruler of all and ascends to the highest throne. And for this, we do give thanks.
This is Psalm 47, God Mounts His Throne.
God mounts his throne to shouts of joy. Alleluia, alleluia. All peoples clap your hands, cry to God with shouts of joy. For the Lord Most High, we must fear, great King over all the earth. God mounts his throne to shouts of joy. Alleluia, alleluia. God goes up with shouts of joy. The Lord goes up with trumpet blast. Sing praise for God, sing praise for God, sing praise to our King. God mounts his throne to shouts of joy. Alleluia, alleluia. God is King of all the earth. Sing praise with all your skill. God is King over the nations. He reigns on his holy throne. God mounts his throne to shouts of joy.